everybody. Welcome to this episode of Talk Shit. I am your host, Dave Wisnowski, and this episode is a really special one for you because we are going to talk to someone who took his passion for wrestling, his talent for being all artistic and whatnot, and turned it into a business and doing really well for himself. And he hustled and did what other people told him couldn't be done. Reached out to wrestlers and people that he was told was way above his pay grade and out of reach for him, and he got shit done. He ended up designing T-shirts and whatnot for Cody Rhodes, for Bullet Club, for lots of other wrestlers. So if you've ever wondered if you could ever take your talent, whatever it may be, and apply it to your love of wrestling and turn it into a business and make a little coin and take care of yourself, especially these days when we all got to take care of yourself, please listen to this podcast with Rich Baker from Graphic Content UK, and he's going to tell you exactly, how he ended up working with all these people that you wouldn't believe that some average dude with just a passion for what he does could end up working with. It's a really cool one. You'll learn a lot, and thank you, Rich, for hanging out with me today. Let's get to it.
All right, welcome Rich Baker from Graphic Content UK to Talk Shit with Dave Wisnowski, man. I'm so happy to fucking have you on, buddy. How the hell are you?
Yeah, man, really good. Thank you. It's great to be here. Nice to be on the opposite side of the interview for a change, because last time we did one of these sort of things, you were being interviewed by me for Smack Talk. So
yeah. I think people who are new to the project who don't know you, we did a brief introduction. But yeah, we did an interview for your podcast, your YouTube channel a while back, and that kind of inspired me to think I might actually be able to host one or two of these on my own. I had a lot of fun, man. You're great to talk to. That's why I wanted to have you on here. And like I said in the intro, I think a lot of our followers really need to hear from you, because you're one of those guys that, you love wrestling, you like gaming, you have a talent and affinity for art. You are, however, a fucking terrible employee, and you need to be your own boss, right? You need to be your own boss. So you got into entrepreneurship, starting your own company, and figure out a way to make some money with wrestling, art, and design, and T-shirts, and all that shit. Would you say that's an accurate description?
relatively, although I would say I have been a model employee, if you don't ask my managers at every job I've been at. So, but it kind of like my entrepreneurship story goes back beyond the last couple of years, because I did have a business which started in 2010. That again was born out of necessity. It was Beat This Drum Store, which was the first drum specialist and percussion specialist on the Isle of Wight, where I live. Started that because I was told by a physiotherapist to either give up drumming or give up walking. So, which is a lot to hear when you're 25 and in the supposed prime of your life. So I kind of thought, well, if I can't play anymore, then how do I stay involved in the thing that I love? And I decided teaching was a good way to do it, retail. My mum just happened to comment that I had so much drum kit and equipment that I should start a shop, or I could stock a shop. And that was like the light bulb eureka moment where I just went, do you know what, I could. And with no money, I set up an online business, built up some capital over the course of about 6 months, and opened the physical retail store in the November of 2010.
So that experience then gave you a little bit of confidence and background to then try to, start your own business on the graphic design and art side of things. But before we move on from the drum shop, though, that shop is no longer open. So
Right.
tell me what led to the closure of that. What was the story behind leaving that business?
Ooh, well, that's that was 2013. Essentially, my entire life fell apart. I was married at the time. I had the drum business, everything was going really well. But behind the scenes, my ex-wife was a functional alcoholic, which manifested in an abusive relationship, mentally, and then unfortunately on the last day of it, physically. But if we start from the start of 2013, my grandmother passed away on February the 24th. I ended up taking time away from the shop to mourn and to deal with the funeral and everything else. April of that year, I closed the shop just at the finish of the tax year and decided that was a good time to call it a day, to move into solely teaching, just to generate some better income and to help me have some time away to deal with things that I was dealing with. Obviously, marriage was already declining at this point. A week after the shop closing, my great aunt died. My health was declining rapidly, unbeknownst to me, because I, being a man, just decided I was going to ignore all the pain I was in and just get on with it.
Yeah.
Right. I know you can relate to that.
How did that work out, Rich?
Oh, really well. I'll get to that in a sec. So yeah, by the August, which would have been my grand's 91st birthday, I think it was around about the same week. She attacked me. My ex-wife attacked me, and I ended up getting taken back to my parents' place by police for my own safety. A couple of months after that, I was sat having dinner and had massive chest pains, which a few months later it culminated in surgery to remove my gallbladder, because it turned out basically that was rotten and poisoning me from the inside. And if we'd waited much longer, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you. So that was
anybody ever fucking says you haven't paid your dues or something.
Yeah, just a few.
Jesus Christ. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's
right.
That's a lot of shit for a guy to deal with. And they don't teach you in school how to deal with being fucking physically assaulted by a woman that you're supposed to love.
Wow.
And they don't teach you.
It's a strange one.
Well, yeah. That's talk about cultural taboos. We don't discuss that shit,
I mean, I don't mind talking about it. It's basically at the moment that was happening, the thoughts in my head were, what the hell? Like, real confusion. Then you go into, or I personally went into real practical thinking, like, okay, what I need to do is get her to realize she can't physically throw me out of the flat or whatever it was she was trying to achieve. Because I was like 6 foot and she's like 5'2" and strong, don't get me wrong, she's a strong woman, but the balance just wasn't there to physically throw me out. So I thought, well, if I don't want her to hurt me, I don't want her to hurt herself, the cat, or damage anything in the place. So what do I do? And I spotted the sort of double bed through the doorway, and I just went, that'll do. And I just sort of picked her up and just sort of threw her gently onto the double bed. And I was like, look, stop it. This is going to get us nowhere. And I managed to somehow reason with her and get her to stop attacking me. So I went off I had one room in the place where all my stuff was. That was kind of what I was allowed, if you like. So I went in there. She went off and she used to like shut herself in the dining room bit or in the living room bit at the front. And I just broke. Like, I completely broke. But I tend to go into management mode when I'm in the middle of a crisis and then break afterwards. Okay. So it's kind of, why I was able to do a lot of the things I've done is because I generally don't panic until after the thing. And then my body goes, right, now let's deal with it. So
you're the kind of guy then, strong silent type who like just internalizes everything. Man, I didn't know that our wrestling podcast is going to turn into a therapy session, but this is cool. So yeah, you internalize everything because boys don't cry, men don't complain, but it doesn't go anywhere. It builds up and it eats you. Yeah.
I tend to now I let a lot more out because at the time, you're quite right, I did internalize a lot of things. I wasn't talking about stuff, and most of the shit that I went through in that year I didn't talk about to anyone mostly because I couldn't talk about it to anyone. And I mean, obviously I've mentioned to you before, in a couple of years later, after I thought I got past everything and was dealing with it, I got a new job. I was working in HMRC, which is our tax department, offices in Portsmouth, which is a big city near where I live. And the whole job was basically full of triggers, even down to the piece of software we used every day had the same name as my ex-wife. So like, again, irony of all ironies, right? And the last day I went into that office, I went to a 10th floor window and tried to jump out. And I say that so nonchalantly, like it's, but that's just how I deal with it.
Why are you here then? So many of us literally or figuratively on the fucking list. Well, seriously, why didn't you fucking jump, man? Why didn't you jump?
Oh, man. So I made the decision, looking at the concrete floor below, to ring my mum to apologize and say it's not your fault and I'm sorry and I love you and goodbye, basically. And I decided that if she didn't answer the phone, I was jumping. And spoiler
You
alert,
gotta
she
be
answered.
fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
So your entire life fucking hung in the balance of somebody picking up the fucking phone.
Yeah.
I'm
'Cause I
glad she
decided-
picked up the phone, buddy. I'm really happy she picked up the
No
phone.
shit, so am I.
Fuck.
Yeah. But
So you go through arguably, hopefully, the worst
Mm.
period of your life, and it'll never be that bad again. And you decide that instead of getting a mind-numbing, repetitive, go to work and collect a paycheck, you've decided I'm going to invest more of my own fucking personal capital, and I'm going to try to get into the graphic design business and make T-shirts and shit, and for wrestlers and design websites.
Mhm.
How in the hell did you ever get the momentum and energy to try again?
Okay. So it segues neatly off of the back of this suicide attempt. That was 2015. I got therapy, got myself sorted out, got stronger. Start of 2016, I got a job at the hovercraft that we were talking about off air, which is one of the only commercial hovercraft passenger services, and I think in the world, definitely in the UK, it's the only one.
Oh.
And I worked there for about 2 years, and I had a friend called Gaz who people might have seen in the early Smack Talk videos. He was the artist that was doing the work on the What If. You know, I will never say a bad word about him, even though he will about me. He's been a great friend over the years, and I do miss him. But things happened, differences, and we went our separate ways, and that's fair enough. He'll probably tell a different story, but that's up to him. I have no ill will towards anybody, quite honestly. You kind of grow past that when shit's happened to you. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that 3-year period, anyway, as I say, Smack Talk was something that I dabbled with prior. It had sat on the shelf for years, and I decided that that would be something to resurrect with him because we're both into wrestling, both like talking about it. And I said, well, why don't we just talk about it online, you know, on YouTube and stuff? So we started the channel. The What If came about. He mentioned designing shirts. It was actually his idea initially, and so he did the artwork, and he did the line art. I coloured the shirts and laid them out, and then we put them up on Street Shirts, which is a website in the UK, as limited runs. That was the initial plan. But we weren't.
So do you have a background? Do you have a formal background in art or training or education?
Myself.
So
I don't know. He
like,
does. I don't. He's been a graphic artist or a comic book artist for a long time, but I had no prior training or anything. I was self-taught.
Well, then I think what a lot of people would like to know then, when you're self-taught, you generally are a little bit introverted. You don't share your stuff with a lot of people. So you're always kind of wondering, is this good? Is this shit?
Yeah.
Would people want to buy this? Would they not? So do you happen to remember maybe a moment or a turning point where you actually realized, holy shit, I think people might actually be willing to compensate me for my talent?
Yeah, the Cody story, meeting Cody and showing him my work. That was the moment.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Okay.
We need to hear a Cody story.
So we got from, as I say, we got from my suicide attempt. We got through all the 3 years following, and we get to the start of, well, the culmination of 2017. So I'm sat in my home, in my flat, looking online at all the news about Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12. And thinking, oh my God, that's going to be the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I need to watch this. So I booked the dates off work, you know, so I could be up the next day to watch it and all this sort of stuff. And something in my head went, I wonder how much tickets to Wrestle Kingdom are. So I looked, and decent seats were like £70. So I suppose that's like $120 or something like that. And I thought, I can afford that. And I just bought one at random. Just thought, I'll buy one. If I can't go, you know, I'll sell it. Whatever.
So you're in the Isle of Wight at this time.
And
Wrestle Kingdom's being held where?
Tokyo.
So you buy a ticket to a show in Tokyo without any regard to how the hell you're getting from point A to point B.
Correct.
I love this story because
it gets better.
Because then I'm guessing what basically happens is, well, now you got a ticket. The universe better fucking figure out how to get you there, right? So,
Well, yeah.
awesome. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going, man.
No, no. So then I'm sat there going, shit, I've got a ticket to Wrestle Kingdom. And much like you said, I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I have no idea what I'm going to do about it. Nothing. So rather than look at the price of flights, I reserve a hotel in Akihabara, which is a video gaming city in or part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Tokyo, which I'm sure you know. So,
yeah.
so now I've got a hotel and a ticket to Wrestle Kingdom, and still no way to get to Tokyo. And we're October 2017, and Wrestle Kingdom takes place on January the 4th.
Ooh.
So I then, yeah, somehow I think credit cards came into it and PayPal credit and all sorts of things, and very helpful family at Christmas time that gave me some spending money and things.
Nice.
Yeah, I ended up going to Tokyo. Flew out New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, beg your pardon. I stayed at the hotel at Gatwick New Year's Eve. Spent it alone in a hotel. Flew out early the next morning. Landed evening time in Japan with no idea what I was doing, how to get to my hotel or anything. And yeah, had the time of my life.
How the hell in your head are you able to kind of flip that switch between life itself is too hard, I don't know how to go on, to yeehaw adventure, I'm going to Tokyo? Like it seems like those are two opposite personality types. Like how the fuck do you make that happen?
So, as I mentioned, I went through a good amount of therapy after all the problems. Did a thing called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy,
I've
which
heard of
gives
it. Yeah.
you, yeah. So, for those who don't know, it gives you the tools to manage your anxieties and depression in your everyday life. So, if you're going through a situation where you're panicking, or if you're socially anxious, or things like that, you can have a tool set within your own mind to deal with it. So, what I did was basically use that fuel of never wanting to get back to that situation again to drive me to go to Tokyo. Tokyo became the most life-changing experience I've ever had. I met who are the friends that are collectively known as Gaijin Club, which is Matt, Mark,
Oh, please,
David, Andrew.
please,
Yeah.
please tell us about Gaijin Club, because I was so fucking entertained and impressed. The short version of the story is, obviously at this time, Bullet Club was riding high at their peak. Everybody had a fucking variation of the Bullet Club shirt. We could argue that we jumped the shark NWO style, but you decided to make up this Gaijin Club thing. Tell us about that.
So that happened in the Tokyo Dome. Basically, the link where foreigners could buy the tickets from put everyone in the same section. So all the foreigners were sat in one bit, and
They racially
like,
segregated the crowd.
yeah,
That's hilarious.
we were all up in the top, like in the one F stand, like in one
Okay.
section. So we dubbed it the Gaijin section.
Oh
Gaijin
man.
is actually quite. I found out from Kevin Kelly, and this is jumping ahead a bit. Later on, we found out that Gaijin is actually quite a frowned upon term. It's like racially offensive in Japan. It's
Really?
there's yeah, it's like a racial sort of slur against foreigners, and the actual friendly
Really?
word is and I'm going to butcher this, so apologies. I think it's gaikukujin or something like that.
My goodness.
Um, and I turned around to Kevin Kelly. I was like, yeah, but that won't fit on a shirt. So
So Gaijin is kind of like the equivalent of
yeah,
like
we
white
just
trash
took
or
it.
something, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that kind of deal. So we just took it and mullered it. But yeah,
I have I have to show people pictures of this when I
yeah,
edit this back together. Are those shirts available, or is that just
yeah,
a private
they're still
inside
on.
joke thing?
No, no, they are fully. They're on their like fifth iteration now on smacktalk.co.uk. So you can go on there and buy them. And
Well, you know what? This is a good a segue,
mm,
because I know there's a lot of people listening that have had ideas for T-shirts and whatnot, and it's kind of it's become easy and a cool thing to like get yourself an account at Pro Wrestling Tees and submit some artwork, and then all of a sudden you're a shirt designer, right? So,
right.
what's your take on, like, you've been offering your artwork and your creative ideas and shit a variety of ways. You've tried like producing shirts yourself and directly sending them yourself to customers. You've tried using what they call like a fulfillment house, like Pro Wrestling Tees. Maybe you could share with our listeners some of the pros and cons if they have a cool idea, which way they might want to go, making it happen.
Sure. Well, to get to that, I mean, we should preface it with the remainder of the Cody story, which was how I
Okay.
ended up doing Pro Wrestling Tees instead of self-fulfilling, because
Thanks
that
for reminding me.
happened.
Good.
No, that's all good. It happened because of the Japan trip, because we met.
All right.
We were very fortunate in meeting Bullet Club, or more as we know him now, the Elite,
Hmm.
at a restaurant near the Tokyo Dome,
Okay.
known for being the Young Bucks' favorite Japanese food. Uh, well, TGI Fridays, whatever. But so we met them there. I got chatting to Kenny Omega and Cody and all the guys, and we had some photos with them, things like that. Come back to the UK, and in the May of 2018, there was Rev Pro or Revolution Pro Wrestling put on an event called Mayhem in Portsmouth Guildhall. Cody was on a Ring of Honor tour and was asked, or the Ring of Honor guys were asked, is anyone up for doing a Rev Pro show? And before they could even finish asking him, he said, yes, absolutely, I'll do it. So he's wrestling, months removed from the Tokyo Dome in a building that holds about 500 people in Portsmouth. Now,
Wow.
I know straight away that I've got to be there. And I had this idea for the propaganda poster shirt, which you may or may not have seen on Pro Wrestling Tees.
I should remember that.
Yeah, so that idea came to me about a month removed from this event, and I had no confidence in my ability to draw it. So I asked Gaz if he'd draw it. He was on holiday; he had no time. So I sat there and thought, well, if I'm ever going to get this done, I've got to do it myself. So I drew the artwork. It, in my eyes, it was perfectly fine. And afterwards, reviewing it, I was like, well, I'm not happy with this bit and that bit, but no one's ever 100% happy with what they do. So I took it with me. I printed it out on some really nice high quality cards. I thought, fancy.
Yeah.
Took it to Cody, paid for the meet and greet thing, took it to Cody and said, hi, I don't know if you remember me, we met in Tokyo, TGI's, you asked me if I'd fly halfway around the world for you and the Bucks, and here we are in my home. I want to put this on a t-shirt on my website. Do I have your permission to use your image, sort of thing? And he loved it, and he's like, oh my god, that's the best thing. Have you ever thought about putting your work on Pro Wrestling Tees? I hadn't even twigged that was an option, didn't know anything about doing it. It was something I hadn't even really looked at. So he hooked me up with Ryan, and the rest is history. It's been a very interesting journey. I can't really go into details about what the royalties are for me because everyone's deal's different, and I don't think it's appropriate to talk, exact numbers.
But in general, because I know people are wondering, I know this is public knowledge, but just in general, the process for a deal like that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you as an artist, if you had a design for a shirt, you would sign up for an account with a place like Pro Wrestling Tees, give them the art. And then if anybody wants to order a shirt with your art on it, then Pro Wrestling Tees, the company, would actually physically make the shirt and ship it to the customer.
Yeah.
And then is it like generally, I think it's once per month or something. They figure out how much money they owe you, and they might send you a check with the money. But so some people are probably wondering, like, do we get paid every time a shirt is sold? No, they usually just once a month.
It's like first of the month you get a PayPal or a whatever payment method I think there's certain payment methods, but I use PayPal, which is easier, and it comes in start of the month, and they give you like a login thing so you can see all your sales figures and stuff like that. And it's really useful. And I like to copy that into a spreadsheet and monitor all of it and work out who's my top seller and all that sort of stuff. It's just, I'm sad and I love spreadsheets. So.
That's cool though. And speaking of which, like people might have unrealistic expectations, thinking, oh, if I get a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees, I'm going to make $1 million. I know, obviously, Bullet Club and the Bucks and stuff like that sells a lot. But I remember listening to an interview with Kevin Owens, Steen, whatever, where he was one of their biggest sellers, and he was saying he'd be happy if he sold one shirt a day. That was
I remember that.
So I think people, if you're going to get into the t-shirt design business, do it because you love it, not because you expect to get rich overnight. I mean, lightning strikes, you never know. But like speaking of lightning striking. you did that shirt, that got you some attention, and you ended up like starting hooking up with other wrestlers wanting to work with you, right? Maybe you could tell us a bit about how that started.
Yeah, so it's essentially all come from this Japan trip, as I said, like meeting Cody, met Kevin Kelly while I was out there, met quite a few people, Don Callis, like a load of people. And that was kind of the thing that I suppose, to coin a wrestling phrase, put me over, was being there, actually taking the time out to meet people and say, look, this is what I do, you know, kind of thing. Not like force yourself on people, but be cool and just kind of chat. And if it comes up, it comes up. And if it doesn't, you know, just be respectful. And that was my thing, was kind of like I met people that I'd been a fan of for an inordinate amount of years. I mean, Kevin Kelly said, you're not even old enough to remember the 90s, are you? And I was like, oh, thanks. But I was watching from like, I'm, you know, I was born in 84 and I was watching from like 2 years old British wrestling, you know, like I love it. And we just got chatting away. And then again, Twitter is such a wonderful connector of people. And I speculatively tweeted Kevin and just said, you know, I don't know if you remember me from Tokyo, but I'd love to design for you, you know, because I saw that he had one shirt on his store and I was like, it's not that good. So I kind of like, and he agreed. But I just said, look, I'd love to do a shirt for you. And that then he helped me inordinately. Like, he's such a great guy. You know, we've become very good friends.
You're actually touching on something that seems to be a common thread with some of the other people I've interviewed in this podcast, like entrepreneur business people. And that's if you want to be successful, kind of working for yourself, you really do need to get out there and offer people help to do stuff. Any kind of sense of entitlement, like, well, I'm not going to design anything until I get a $500 deposit because I'm an artist and deserve to get paid. Yes, but I think people kind of forget that you do need to prove yourself. You do need to offer something, right, of value. Like you didn't just demand people get you to make t-shirts. You were showing people designs that you did in your own time and said, look what I can do, right?
Yeah. And if this thing that I do relates to something you want, then we can hook up and do something. And if not, cool. And I'm here if you need something. It's not like a situation where I'm, you know, fortunately I'm not desperate for work. Like, and I never have felt desperate for work in any facet, even with like the drum shop, when it was a day where I didn't see a human being. I was like, well, it's cool because I love doing this. And this is literally what I'd be sat at home doing anyway. So I, you know, it doesn't faze me. My mentality's always been, if I can make a difference to one person's life for the better, then I could go bankrupt tomorrow and never care, you know?
Okay, I love that.
So
what would you say then? What would you say then to the aspiring, you know, self-employed artist? I see this a lot in like younger people trying to break into, you know, the design art business. They have a fear that, you know, their work will be stolen if they show anybody, and they expect that they want prospective clients to. It's not uncommon for someone to say, I'll show you my portfolio, but you need to sign this non-disclosure agreement first, you know, like, I think that kind of tends to turn people. So what would you say to people about, you know, don't like trusting or not worrying that your shit will get stolen, because it might. So, how do you navigate that, you know, like, and as a follow-up, have you ever had any of your designs borrowed? You know?
Oh, I knew you were going to go down that route. Okay, so don't be afraid of people stealing your good idea, because if they want to steal your good idea, it shows you it was a good idea. And yes, it has happened to me inordinate amounts of times. Even as far back as the drum shop, I was having like ideas like turning drums into clocks. And now I'm probably not the first person to ever think of doing it, but I certainly put it out there into the world, and then saw other companies making the same product that had never made it prior. So whether they stole my idea or not, I don't know. Who's to say? There's 7-8 billion people on this planet, and I'm pretty sure that there's a good percentage of them that all have the same dumb idea. So I'm kind of, you know, how do you prove that someone didn't have that idea prior to you, is what I'm saying. At the end of the day, don't get too caught up on it. Do what you can do. Don't worry about what you can't do or what other people are doing. You know, in sports, you're not worried about the score. You're just worried about your personal performance. Like if it's a solo sport, just do the best you can do and don't worry about others. At the end of the day, all you can do is your best. So do it and be proud of it for you. You know, I'm a big Frank Zappa fan. We've talked about that before.
Don't eat
His
yellow
met-
snow, man.
right now more than ever. But the the thing I learned from him, like reading his books and listening to his music, was he created for himself first and wanted to create perfect music for him. You know, it's the stuff he wanted to hear and absorb. So for me, the reason I became a creator in the first place was because there was things that didn't exist in the world that I wanted to exist. And I thought, well, I can't sit here and wait for someone else to do it. So I'm going to make it myself.
You've just described Pro Wrestling X in a nutshell, man.
There you go.
Exactly. So how, like, what advice would you give then? Like, give me an example scenario. You got a kid here. He's got an awesome idea for a T-shirt for an indie wrestler. How would you suggest they try to make that happen? And what could they reasonably expect to happen?
Okay, so there's two methods I employ, which is either go to a show where they are and pay for a photograph or a meet and greet, an autograph or something with them, take your design with you like I did with Cody, and just respectfully say, I hope you don't mind, but I brought this design to show you. I'm an up-and-coming artist. What do you think? Is there an opportunity here for us to work together? Ask the question. And Matt will say the same thing. Matt from Gaijin Club will say, if you don't ask, you don't get. But ask respectfully is what I'd say. Don't be upset if you get a no. And if you do get a no, you're in no worse a position than you were before you asked. Simple
Beautiful
as that.
advice. Beautiful advice, man. I know that. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. The only other thing I was going to say was Twitter is your friend. But again, be respectful.
That I tell the story a few times, but that's exactly how Pro Wrestling X ended up with the fucking stellar crew we have. I never went looking for the people that I'm working with right now. You know, they decided they liked the project and wanted to work on it. Not unlike you might see a wrestler you want to make a shirt for, right? And in both cases, especially in the case of our artist, our lead animator and whatnot. He didn't ask to work on the project. He said, here's a bunch of work I just did. If you like it, you can use it,
Cool.
So when it came time to like hire an animator, like how could you not like work with the guy who's already done awesome work for you? You're right. Put yourself in a position if I can help and get noticed, right? Well, that's awesome. And so you've also done, you do website work for people as well. I assume it's the same sort of process. Maybe do you literally go, hey, I noticed your website sucks balls. Can I help you out? Like,
that has happened, yeah. I do. One of my pet peeves is piss poor design and piss poor websites. If it's lazily done, and I hate WordPress. Just putting that out there into the ether. Can't stand the platform.
Right.
Horrible. Hate to work with it. And if anyone says to me, "Can you build my WordPress?" I'm like, "No, I'll build you a fucking website from scratch because I hate it." So. But generally, I'll look to see an opportunity where there's a need and it's a need that I can fill, or if it's something that's beyond my capability, I'm not averse to recommending somebody. And I'm not one of these guys, for my own stupidity, probably, like piss poor business acumen, but I'm not one of these that tends to outsource. I like to give work to people because screw it, it doesn't bother me. And it comes back in good karma anyway, so I'm not worried. Like, let's all help each other, you know.
So then, how did the relationship come about with the Retromania game project? For our listeners who don't know, because the game's kind of in stealth mode, flying under the radar a little bit. Retromania is the spiritual successor to the WrestleFest games. And the developers behind that game are another bunch of super passionate, awesome fucking wrestling fans who are doing it out of love. They want to do it. So, how did you approach them, and what have you done to help them and input with that project?
Okay, so it's actually been confirmed that it is the official sequel to WrestleFest now.
That's an awesome story, and I can't wait. I'll be interviewing the developer of that, and he's got some awesome stories to tell how that came about. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
That's right. So obviously, me being now hooked on the travel bug, Gaijin Club went to New York last year for WrestleMania, and we went to WrestleCon, met a bunch of people there, including a certain chap called the Blue Meanie. who's an awesome dude, absolute legend, love the guy to bits. And he was promoting the game because he and the Blue World Order are in the game. Obviously, there's been further developments like the NWA are now related to it. House of
Yeah.
Hardcore, Tommy Dreamer, and all those guys are in there. So it's a really cool roster. And at the time, there wasn't much of the roster announced. I think there was like 8 characters, I think, or
Yeah.
something like that. Not even
Yeah.
8 characters. Like it was Blue World Order and Tommy Dreamer, and I think,
Road Warriors.
God, yeah, Road Warriors were the only ones that had been announced. So I got chatting to Meanie at WrestleCon and said, this game is something that I've been keeping an eye on. I'm really interested in it. It speaks to me because I loved WrestleFest as a kid. Always used to play it at my local arcade, and I really love it. I totally dig it. And we got chatting for ages. He was saying, about he was asking about what I do, and I said, I'm a designer. I work with like Cody, and started name dropping, as you do,
Yeah.
shooting the shit. And he said,
Yeah.
he goes, do I follow you on Twitter? I was like, I don't think you do at the moment, but I'd really appreciate it if you did. So we hooked up through Twitter. It turned out Retromania, the guys actually already followed me, and I didn't even really realize, which was very cool.
Yeah.
So I messaged them and just said, hey, thanks for following me. Met Meanie in New York. If there's any opportunity to design some, stuff for you guys, be it T-shirts or in-game assets or anything you need, I'd be more than happy to work with you. And eventually they did come back to me and said, well, we've got some work available to you, but like you mentioned before, I had to sign an NDA, so I can't really talk about much. But obviously the stuff that's now been released, we can talk about, which is things like the in-game logos for wrestlers, and obviously the killer arcade cab that was at PAX East, which I was so proud of. I have
to post photos of these. For those who don't know, Retromania went to PAX East, and they put their game in an arcade cab with original, covered in original artwork. So you helped design that cab artwork, or you did all the artwork? Like, what was your role there?
So the artwork, layout, and everything was me. Except obviously there's the art of the wrestlers, which will be shown on the pictures that you put up on here, was already in existence. And things like the NWA logo and the House of Hardcore logo was already in existence. I did the wrestler logos, which you'll see around the monitor bezel. I laid out all the artwork, all the nebula stuff, the lasers and all that kind of thing I did. Basically, I laid out that entire artwork for the side art and marquee and everything.
Oh, it looks beautiful, man. So you ended up following your own advice, and you approach these people, and they like your work, and bada boom, bada bing, you are now designing for them. It was just fucking awesome. And and for people who don't know too, we haven't shared a lot of stuff that you and I have been working on. We've been doing some concepts for Pro Wrestling X that are amazing too, man. Like I really believe, you got all the right ingredients to work in the game industry, especially the wrestling side of things, man. You're like a perfect storm for wrestling game developers. What you're doing.
Checks in the post.
So, in all your experience, who's been one or two of maybe your favorite wrestlers or personalities to work with?
Oh man, well obviously I've been name dropping Kevin Kelly loads, and the guy's become such an amazing friend, big support, and love him to death. He's such a cool guy.
What makes him cool to work with?
He's hooked me up with so many people that I'd never got the chance to meet, or even work with. And whether the things that I've worked on with them have come about or not, it's just been an amazing experience, and he's helped put my name out there a lot. Through him, Gino Gambino, again, part of the NJPW commentary team, the English commentary team, I should say. Awesome dude, absolute legend. I think I've done 4 shirts for him now. And he's super cool, like really nice guy. Absolutely, again, and also Bullet Club Block Party guys. They were super cool to work with. Love Tama and everybody. I'm so gutted for them in this climate because of the coronavirus.
Did you have Did you have any issues with working on Bullet Club themed stuff? I know that things can get a little sticky with trademarks and shit, and especially when you're commercializing and selling stuff. Although I think Pro Wrestling Tees themselves play pretty loose and fast with trademark laws. Some of their
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was working with the Bullet Club guys, so it was kind of easy for me because it was official. And the Bullet Club Block Party shirt I did last year was an official Bullet Club shirt. So it's not
Yeah.
like, it was me bootlegging it for like the Gaijin Club stuff,
Yeah.
which I still don't know how the hell I got away with that, but I think
I
it's really
heard
cool. So
this. Yeah, this could be just urban legend. I'm not sure, but I've heard that the original art assets and the Bullet Club design were largely open source clip art. So there's nothing that anybody can do about it.
I don't know. I mean, I genuinely don't know about that. I've heard that about that, and also I've heard it about Lucha Underground's art assets with the mask, but
I
I
did.
don't know if
Yeah,
true
isn't
that
that
is.
hilarious?
Yeah, I did find it
I don't
actually.
know.
So before, because obviously, one of the things I did was work with Lucha Underground, doing Lucha UK, which is the UK fan site,
Right.
and my mission to try and get it on air in the UK. God, that feels like
Yeah.
a lifetime ago now. But one of the things I was struggling with initially before I got the official deal with merch distribution was the art assets and actually wanting to put Lucha Underground art on a shirt
Yeah.
because I was like, well, how do I go about doing it? I wanted to do, and it was actually because I wanted to do videos on it on Smack Talk and talk about Lucha Underground. So to find that mask logo, I ended up finding a free vector file with it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So it
Yeah.
was out there as a free vector, commercial use, fine, no problems. Um, I couldn't tell you if that was where it originated or what, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, then, on the flip side of that, we've talked about, when working with wrestlers and companies goes well and smoothly and everybody's cool. Have you
Mhm.
experienced any like disappointing situations where maybe like a wrestler maybe overvalued, for lack of a better word, their contribution, or perhaps disrespected, your value as an
Mm.
artist? And if so, how do you navigate that or deal with it?
I mean, it's obviously it's a very difficult industry when you're dealing something that's an intangible property. It's not like you're giving physical
Yeah.
goods to people, so it's a a transient thing that only really exists in data, so it's hard. But to put inherent value into that, you have to work out what it means to the person in terms of sales, blah blah blah. I'm not going to go into the full ins and
Yeah.
outs of business right now, but I've never felt disrespected as such, but I have had an instance with unfortunate consequences in the sense of working with a wrestler where I designed him a shirt. He loved the design on all face of it, and I never saw the shirt come to exist. And then just got completely blanked when I was like DMing saying, "Hey, is everything cool?" We'd had an issue with Vistaprint where he was going to go to get it done because he wanted it to sell at shows, and the artwork I sent over, he said didn't work on Vistaprint. So I
Hmm.
tested it and realized that they didn't support the particular format. So I reformatted it, put it all together, put it into the exact dimensions that were needed, sent him the file, and then heard nothing. And we've never spoken since. And I don't know why. So
Well, that's
yeah.
disappointing when shit just falls apart.
Mm. But again,
Um,
no disrespect to the guy because he's a great
yeah.
wrestler and I really respect his work. And it's just one of those things that happened, you know.
So what's going on currently with you then? We talked about how you got here from where you
Mm.
were. So what kind of things can you share with us that you and your company might have in the works?
Ooh. So let's see what devious plans have I got at the minute. Currently been working with a local hotel, the Nightingale Hotel, who are obviously struggling under the current
Yeah.
circumstances globally. Dino's a hell of a guy. His family are lovely. Think the world of him. Been trying to help him out where I can. I was actually going to start working there as a team leader, but unfortunately that's had
Hmm.
to be put on hold because
Yeah.
we're all self-isolating because mum's high risk and I don't want to take any
Hmm.
chances with her health. And people have been super
Yeah.
understanding about it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, been working with him on promotional materials for his purgatory parties, which are pretty sick. So
Right.
there's stuff you'll see all this sort of stuff on my website, graphic-content.uk.
Nice.
Cheap plug.
Well, this is it sounds like you got some cool shit happening, man.
Yeah.
A couple segments we're adding to the Talk Shit podcast here, which I'd
Okay.
love
Sweet.
to invite you to participate in before we
Hmm.
let you go. Everybody's got a thank you list and credits and whatnot in their projects, but very few people, I think Metallica started this back in the 80s, have a
Nice.
fuck you list where they are not afraid to call out people who actively tried to sabotage them or work against them or cause them more grief than not. So without naming names, unless you want to or whatever, do you have any types of people or situations that you would like to say fuck you to?
Oh man. Apart from the COVID-19, which I think
Yeah,
we're all saying fuck you to right now.
yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, one that came up today that I briefly mentioned on our chat prior to this was Arnold Schwarzenegger, who
Oh,
I've loved his work and love him as an actor, and will happily share my Arnie impression with anybody that asks for it. And, oh, here it comes. Yeah, okay. Come on, do it. Put that cookie down. What are you doing? But he over it's like since this virus thing's kicked off, he's been posting his PSAs, and I'm kind of like, dude, you're a millionaire, sat in your mansion, like what the fuck. So the one that pissed me off today was he was sat in his jacuzzi. Hello, I'm sat here in my jacuzzi smoking a stogie, and I'm telling you, we need to stay at home. You must isolate yourself. Don't be a fool. Don't be stupid. Put that cookie down. He's going like this. I'm like, dude, you're a millionaire, right? You're a millionaire.
oh,
Sat in a jacuzzi, smoking a cigar that's thicker than my arm. And it's like, I get it. You've got reach. You've got social media reach. Okay. That is important. Like getting messages around, you need reach. But you're so disconnected from people in the real world that are
yeah.
scratching around for toilet roll and food and don't know if they're going to have a job when this is all over. That's all very well and good to tell people to stay at home, but where it's, what about doctors, nurses, frontline people that are really struggling, that have relatives that are high risk but can't not work, because we need them to be working, because if we don't have them working, we'll die. And it's like,
Exactly.
that's the kind of thing that pisses me off. It's like, I get it, but you're a millionaire, help in a real way, like pay people's wages or something. I don't know.
Well, if anything good,
Whatever.
anything good came out of that, if anything good came out of your putting Arnie on your fuck you list, it's that I now have to make a crowd sign for Pro Wrestling X that simply says, "Put that cookie down." That's got to happen. That's got to happen. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, here comes the next.
By the way,
pardon me.
To include a cookie as a weapon if you have a sign that says put that.
That actually opens up a nice existential debate. What kind of cookie would make the best wrestling weapon?
Hazelnut, because it's heavier.
Yeah, something with nuts in it, right?
This is so weird.
Well, you're talking about the game with a Christmas tree in it, so I don't think a cookie's too far of a stretch. So,
right. Well, last time we spoke about the game, we talked about it being related to Goat Simulator, so God only knows what we're going to.
No doubt, eh? Well, now is the part of the podcast where people usually say, "Thanks for coming. It's all good." But instead of doing that, I'd like to do something. A lot of times when people ask me how I'm doing, I like to tell them I'm doing 10 kinds of awesome, right? What I would like to do is now embarrass you. And I would like to, instead of a simple thank you, I'm going to thank you for roughly 10 awesome things that you've done that I really appreciate. All right?
Wow. Cool.
I had to write them down because you've been so fucking awesome. Right now, in no particular order, I don't even know if you remember this, but a while back, we were kind of brainstorming some shirt ideas. We were talking about updating the Pro Wrestling X logo, which is kind of old and tired, right? And you sent me a mock-up, and the tagline you used was Pro Wrestling X, "We bleed for this." And holy fuck, man, it was like getting struck by lightning. Like, we bleed for this. I fucking love it. So thank you for giving us the "We bleed for this" thing. I hope we don't one day see you in court suing us for royalties over $1 million worth of "We bleed for this" shirts. But I give you full credit for that. So it's my own fault if you do sue us, because I just admitted you gave it to us.
Yeah, well, just pay me and we won't need to sue.
It's also and also touching base on what you said with the Guy Gin Club, man. thank you for being so cool and having such a creative idea like that, and kind of bringing together that community and making everybody in that little Gaijin club, feel a part of something cool. Because I've
Oh,
seen the pictures on social media, and you guys always look so happy. So
Mm.
I know it
I
probably
can't
seemed
take
like,
sole credit. I can't take sole credit on that. That's all of those guys. It was
I'll give it
a
to you though.
group thing. So yeah. Well, you're
Well,
talking
that was
directly, and
awesome.
I'll relate it to them. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Also, thank you for legit inspiring me, man. When I followed you and you were talking about, fuck it, I'm just going to go to Tokyo because I want to, and nothing's going to stop me. Um, a lot of people would say that's completely irresponsible and mentally ill thing to do, and I'm sure you'd go, yes, it was.
Yeah, totally. It was the best thing I ever did.
But following you and just seeing this guy that I know, Rich Baker, smiling ear to ear and legit fucking not faking his fucking happiness, and just seeing somebody have a big audacious idea and doing it. I think we need to see more of that. So thank you very much for having the balls to do that, man. That was legit inspirational. I fucking dig that, man.
I can't say a word.
Also, I need to
Oh
thank
God.
you for the amount of times, not to be all cringy and too awkwardly personal, but Pro Wrestling X has gone through some pretty rocky times, and dealing with people and whatnot. And I needed advice from someone, kind of from your point of view, and you were always there to fucking pick up the messenger chats, going, "Holy fuck, Rich, I can't believe what a dick this guy's being. Talk me off a ledge," and you would always give me a healthy perspective and help me empathize with other people's point of view. And I need to say thank you for doing that for me, Rich. You're fucking
No
awesome
worries, man.
that way. Now, I also need thank you for having me on a guest on Smack Talk, man. It's doing that kind of shit that gave me confidence that I might not completely suck at doing a podcast myself. So thank
You
you
did the
very
same
much
for
for that,
me.
man.
Me having you on there was exactly the same reasoning. So
Probably. Um, and finally, something that I don't think we've ever talked about, because you know how it is, you got to keep certain shit hush hush. But back recently, when AEW had posted, I think it was about a year ago,
mm,
that they wanted to make a video game, I was like, yes, we should pitch to these guys. And
mm,
you opened your book of contacts, and you helped us. You helped us get our pitch package as close as we could to the decision makers over there.
mm.
So without guys like you helping us when you fucking didn't have to, there was nothing in it for you to give us help, And I know how risky it is to introduce somebody on your behalf, because you don't know
Mm.
how it's going to go, and you don't want to ruin your relationship with these contacts in case I turn out to be a flaming fucking dickhead or something, so it took some trust and faith on your part to help me navigate the AEW office. So thank you for helping us with that, man. You are a fucking class act. I am very happy to know you, and this has
Thanks,
all
man.
been fucking cool. And yeah, finally, I wasn't expecting you to necessarily be so open about your struggles early on, with fucking mental health and psycho
Mm.
ex-wives and all that stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know her. Maybe she's not psycho, but she sounds
No,
like she may have some
I.
issues.
Do you know what? I
Um,
mean, just to preface that or post
yeah,
that, I will say that regardless of what I've been through with her, I will always respect her. I'm never going
yeah,
to put her down. Like a
ah,
situation happened through no fault of
yeah.
anyone's. Addiction is a horrible thing.
Mm,
No one should blame themselves, but just do get the help if you can. And the first step
yeah.
is admission. So it's the hardest one, but once you've done it, you get there. But nothing but
Well,
respect.
it's nothing but respect from me to you for being open about that shit. It's been so stigmatized, especially guys talking about that kind of crap.
Mm,
Supposed to be strong like bull. We don't talk about our feelings. Boys don't cry. Like.
mm.
So it takes balls, and you're a brave dude, and you're an inspiring dude. And like I say, I'm very grateful for everything you've done, for everything you shared, for all the inspiration you've given me. And I hope we get to work together in any and all capacity we can going forward. You're a good
Yeah,
dude,
too
and the
right.
world needs more good dudes, man.
Well, thank you, dude. I really appreciate that.
Ah, it's all good, man. Before we go,
Hmm.
then, you kind of touched on this, but if people are fired up and inspired to do things based on hearing you today, where can they follow you? Where can they see
Yeah.
you online and all that stuff?
So, if people want to follow me because they're inspired or they want to fling shit at me, the place to do that is at Rich Baker Draws, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, and I believe not Facebook because that's my personal thing and piss off. I don't want it. But yeah, generally speaking, yeah, Twitter and Instagram for personal pages, which are at Rich Baker Draws. Blah, blah, blah. Smack Talk _ UK on Twitter. The rest of that is kind of dying a death because I'm lazy and can't be
Hmm.
bothered. Um, the the main business thing is graphic-content.uk, which is the website, and all the links to the social medias are on there. That's where you can find most of my non-wrestling portfolio, but everything else will be migrating there in the near future.
So if wrestlers want to get in touch with you, make more awesome T-shirts, they can find you there.
Yeah.
Are you open to if we've got some aspiring young artists listening who might have a question for you too? Do you mind if they reach out to you on social media and pick your brain?
Never a problem. Never a problem. I've had it a lot. People messaging going, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Or yeah, I'm always cool
Mhm.
to talk to. Like I'm just message
You
me. It
are.
doesn't matter. Or at me first. And do I will say though, do me the courtesy of giving me a follow. Like because there's a lot of people will message and they'll be like, "Hey, what do you think of this? I'd love to work with you." Blah 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 blah, and they're not even following. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're just reaching at this point. So do please have some courtesy and respect. I will always give respect, but it should be a two-way street, and
Yeah.
it's earned, not deserved. You know, everything in life is earned, not deserved. So I will do what I can to earn your respect, but please do have the respect back.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Well, thanks again. I barely touched the surface on all the kind of shit I want to talk to you about. You're a wealth of knowledge and experience, a whole
Knowledge is
bunch of
the only thing I'm
shit.
wealthy in.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, even if we only learn from the hard times and our mistakes, you've definitely made some of those,
Oh
and
yeah,
you could help people
yeah.
avoid and make their own mistakes, right? So, I will thank you one more time. And before we go, can I get a middle finger for everybody on your fuck you list?
Right, we can have
Huh?
the cross one. There you go.
Oh,
Cross
that's a
middle
good one.
fingers. Yeah, because no one else has done that
Fuck.
one. that's the that's that's equally fu, and it's
Wait.
like keep the virus away from me. So
Oh man. You know what? That's hilarious. I never realized that these podcasts were going to push people to make creative new middle finger gestures. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
got to be
Good one
done.
for me. All right,
Can't
man.
be for
I
Rich.
will let you go, but really, I'm just going to stop recording and we'll keep chatting. So breaking the fourth wall here, man. It's all good.
Ooh,
So thanks again. Thanks everybody for listening. Leave your comments. Follow us. Blah 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 blah. And thank you for talking shit, Rich.
thank you, dude. Everyone, stay safe out there.
All right, thanks again to Rich Baker from Graphic Content UK. That was really awesome. I hope to talk to him again and pick his brain some more and get stories about what wrestlers are cool to work with and which ones are dicks. I'm sure he's got some stories, man. So, if you have any sort of talent whatsoever and you're wondering if you could ever work with some of your favorite wrestlers and companies to, make some bucks and take care of yourself, I hope Rich was able to kind of steer you in the right direction and show you how he did it. It's always best, I think, to learn from other people's experiences. So thank you, Rich, for coming on and sharing yours. In the meantime and in between time, that's it. Another edition of Talk Shit. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for hanging out. Cheers.